told a job in sales was going to change my life for the better. It was supposed to make me a more socially capable person who could talk to anyone and everything and show me skills that I would be able to use throughout my entire life moving forward. But in reality, it just made me cry myself to sleep and tear up whenever someone asked me how I was feeling. Howdy, it's Sunny Badami, and I have some very important life updates. Number one update, I got a job! Say goodbye to all those jobless gremlin allegations. We are finally moving up in life and actually doing something worthwhile. And then, update number two, I left my job. I left my job after working for a week, and barely that because I took a sick day off in the middle of my work week because it was just too much. And now that I've left, I genuinely feel so much happier, and I honestly could have never imagined that I was going to be so happy and relieved to have left a job with stable income. And you're probably asking yourself, Sunny, what the hell? What got you to this point? And that, my dear viewer, is what I'm going to answer in this video. However, while writing the bullet points for the format of this video, I realized just how long it's going to end up being, so I decided to divide it up into different acts. The video is going to be following the general format that you can see on the screen, so if there's anything that seems more interesting to you, you can just skip forward onto that. Now, getting back to the video, what got me here? Why did I get a job in the first place? Well, my family has always had money issues, and while I was studying, I was able to use some of the student subsidies that I would get to help them with their family finances, since it's money that I could actually put to good use instead of putting it to, like, I don't know, going out to eat with friends or something. I thought that at the time it was a very worthy investment, especially knowing that I'm living with them, so it would be nice if I could actually contribute and help them out, which is what I was doing all throughout the time that I was in uni, from September until June. However, while summer was closing in, I realized that since I wouldn't be getting paid anything during the summer, that I should definitely put in the work to actually get a job. So I locked in, I made myself a resume, and I started applying to multiple jobs as soon as I would wake up. My alarm went off at 7, and at 7:03 I was on the job application apps just applying to a bunch of different jobs, from dog sitting to working as a receptionist to being a salesperson to working in gardening. Like, I was really putting in the effort, and I was doing this for 2 months straight, in which I just go off, and I only ended up getting a call back for an interview from one restaurant, which I might talk about in a future video, and the second one was the company that I ended up working at, which was really random because I genuinely do not even remember applying for them. Mind you, I was half asleep while applying and filling out these forms, so I honestly did not remember that I applied for this job at all. So when I started getting calls from this unknown number, in the beginning, I was ignoring them because like a normal person, I thought it was definitely a scam. Which, was this job a scam or not? I don't think it was, but it definitely was not what it advertised itself to be, and I'll get into that later. But one day, while I was napping, I got another call, and it was from this same number, so I decided, what the hell, you know what, I'll answer. And it's this girl from this one company that I remember seeing the company name because they had so many listings on the website that I was searching on, so I remember the company name, but I don't remember applying. Like, asking me a bunch of questions about, like, just like what it would look like if I were actually working for them. And after that phone call, she said, hey, you really touched upon all the key points that we wanted to hear from you. Would you be interested in going for an interview? And I was like, of course, yeah, tell me whenever. this was during the summertime, so I had like literally nothing to do except possibly hang out with friends or watch Squid Game. So I was really open to go whenever she told me to, and she gave me a date for a couple days later, and I was so ready. I was googling what you should wear for a sales job interview, googling work culture, and I also got into this very niche set of videos on YouTube where people hype each other up within sales jobs and tell each other like, oh, like a sales job is the best job that I've ever done. It's incredible. I've made myself such a good worker and given myself all these skills that I can use in the future for literally any job. And that made me feel very hooked. I didn't know what I was gonna sell. I didn't know much about the company at the time, even though I did do my research eventually before the interview. But I was just like going into the job with a pre-perceived notion of what it was going to be like, and honestly I think that that's to a certain extent my fault, right? Because I hadn't done much of any research. I saw a lot of people that were doing sales like sitting in an office, or they'd stand outside a gym and try to get people to join gyms specifically, and I thought that sounded very easy, especially with the way that they would basically sell the sales job, right? And I was sold on it, so I was like, okay, perfect. Like, I had no doubts going into my job interview. And when I went there, she was asking me the same interview questions that she had asked me on the phone, but then she also explained a little bit about the job itself and how we'd be people that sold outside. So, you know, those random people that come up to you and try to sell you subscriptions, or they're like on the street while you're minding your business. That was basically going to be me. And I went in there with the mindset that I was going to put myself out of my comfort zone. I'm a very private individual, and I don't like talking to anyone. I don't like talking to strangers unless they start talking to me. And I thought that challenging myself to be the person that actually reaches out to other people would be very good for my own personal development. So I didn't gaslight myself, because that's not the correct word, but I did tell myself that this would be good for me and that I should continue forward, even though I did initially have reservations about it. She also told me that there would be this 2-week program where I would always have a supervisor with me, and the supervisor would be able to give me immediate feedback as to what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, so that I could be a better salesperson. And I was like, okay, this is perfect, because I don't have any work experience, right? So having someone there who is more experienced and is like higher up in the company, because she explained it as, this is someone that has worked there for months or years that is going to be giving you immediate feedback. I was like, okay, so I have this person with experience that is going to hold my hand all throughout the process. She said that in like the first couple of days I'd be shadowing them, so I wouldn't be doing much selling on my own. I'd just be following them around, seeing how they interact with people, how they stop them, how they start talking and having conversations and personal connections with random people on the street. And I was like, okay, perfect. I finished the interview, I shake her hand, I go home, and a week later I get informed that I got the job and that I'm starting in a week or two. And that before I start my job, there was going to be like this training course day where they'd give me all the information and a few selling strategies, etc. So I show up to the introduction day, and already then I should have realized that the company was not for me. I don't want to call it a cult, but it did feel cult-ish in the way that they explained everything as if the only reason that you are not succeeding in life is all about mindset. It felt like I was in a conference room for an alpha male podcast, because they would use those very cliche Pinterest alpha sigma male quotes. They'd use quotes like, oh, if you fall down 7 times, that means you just need to get up 8 times. Stuff like that. It felt almost a little otherworldly, the way that they made everything out to be. It's not everything else, it's you. And I do understand it, right? But I also see that there are certain things that you can control, and then there are other things that are external factors that it just makes sense for you to give up at that point. One of the girls that was with me on that day asked, okay, so we're standing outside all day. What happens if it starts pouring rain? And he's like, well, it's all about mindset, you know, because you can't control the rain, but you can control your attitude and what you wear. So you're going to put your rain gear on. You're going to continue trying to pitch to people on the streets. And when I see rain, honestly, what I see is an opportunity to sell better, because people will see you standing there under the rain with a smile on your face, and they'll want to stop and talk to you because you're just a little ray of sunshine under this cloudy weather. Which, as someone that did stand under the rain while it was pouring and tried to stop people with a smile on my face, I can tell you that no one wants to stop when they're also getting wet. So I don't know what that guy was talking about. He said that he made amazing sales while he was underwater, but you know, I didn't. So I should have noticed that they're very hard and very pushy when it comes to the way people think, which at the time I thought was fine, but looking back after seeing everything that I experienced with them, I should have left right then and there before even signing a contract with them. My first day comes around and I am feeling super excited to start this, because like I'm moving out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna do something new. I get there, I put my little uniform on, and I get paired up with this guy, and we go to this random street alone, just him and me, and we're supposed to sell there. But the thing is, he couldn't find parking, so in my mind I was like, okay, so we stay together until you find parking, and then we get off and we start working. And I start shadowing you so that I can see how you do it. And he said, no, you should just get off right now, and you should go stand that corner and just start pitching to everyone you see. Just go for it. I was shocked because that's not what I had in mind. That's not what was supposed to happen at all, right? I was supposed to have him next to me at all times so I could get feedback. But he wasn't, and he was just throwing me into something that I was not expecting. And it was very scary, especially because like I told him that I was a very socially awkward person, and he just threw me into the situation. But an hour passes and I'm working towards it. And then my supervisor pops up like an hour and a half later, and I tell him like, oh, I've been trying to sell. There's a lot of people that don't speak Swedish, but at least like I can communicate with them in other languages, but they still seem to be uninterested. And he said like, oh, we're not supposed to sell to people that don't speak the language. There were so many restrictions that when I actually got someone interested, they just didn't fit the requirements. And I thought that since he was already there, like I could at least shadow him and see what he does, and he didn't let me. So he just stood on a different corner trying to make his sales while I was standing there very confused and kind of scared, because there were just these waves and waves of people coming out of nowhere, and I felt very overwhelmed. So I just go up to older people and I start talking to them. And since honestly a lot of older people in Sweden get neglected by their family members, they were very, very open to speaking to literally anyone that would listen. So I'd sit down with them and I'd talk to them and have these really nice conversations until I'd eventually continue and move on to the next person. And they also found it very charming that I tell them like, hey, like it's my first day and I have this goal of talking to everyone that I see, so I'm talking to you. How's your day? So they found that very charming, and it got to the point where I talked to this group of elderly people, and they'd been sitting on a bench watching me walk up and down the street trying to talk to people for hours. At that point, I had to stand outside for 8 hours with basically no breaks. So it was very hard, and they'd been watching me for hours, and I told them, like, no, I haven't sold anything, but I'm doing my best. And once one of them was gonna leave, like after witnessing me be a failure for like 5 hours straight, she came up to me and wished me luck and gave me a hug, and then she left. And that felt very fulfilling. But once I got home, I'll admit I did break down in tears because I felt like a failure. I felt like I wasn't good at anything. But I convinced myself that since it's my first day, no one can be a star in their first day, right? So I went for day 2, still really sad because I felt like a failure. And the guy that was my supervisor the day before, he looked at me and he was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I had tears in my eyes, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm looking forward to this new beautiful day of working." And I got set up with this other boss, which I thought, well, maybe he'll be more traditional about it, but honestly, I had my reservations because I found out from these other girls that were my coworkers, since we joined at the same time, that they had been paired up with him the day before, and that he had been talking shit about them, like right in front of them. But he did it in another language. And what he did not know was that one of the girls actually spoke that language and heard every single disgusting thing he said about them, knowing that they were new and that he'd never seen them before. And they had complained about that to their boss. So already I felt very intimidated by him, just knowing that he was ruthless when it came to newbies. But once I started working with him, he was fairly chill. Maybe it's because I didn't speak the language that he spoke. But he was fine. He was annoyingly charismatic, I will say that, but I didn't have much issues with him, except for the fact that he would disappear for these long periods of time very randomly. Like, you saw him 1 second and then you turn around and look back and he's gone. And he's gone on a smoke break, or he's just disappeared to go talk to some random person. Not to sell, just to like talk to them, which was concerning because at least I wanted someone there to help me, and him disappearing at random times was honestly like very stressful for me because it was still my second day. And so I continued. I was walking around, I was doing my best trying to sell, and out of the corner of my eye I see this guy with this big Canon camera, and I go up to him and I'm like, "Hey, like, what are you doing?" In my mind, my dad's a photographer, so I know photographers fairly well, and like their likes and dislikes. So I started talking to him about like his camera and like if he's a hobby photographer, if he does it professionally. He's like, "Oh, like I just like taking pictures of buildings and different murals at random. I'm not doing it professionally or anything. It's just my hobby and I really enjoy it." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I look around and I see that where we're standing, there are a bunch of beautiful painted murals. And I'm just taking in the art and I'm like, "Oh, this is so beautiful, you know?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah. And then he looks at my shirt and it says like the organization that I'm working for on it. And he's like, "Oh, you work for this organization. Like, what do they do?" And I start pitching to him. And he's like, "Oh, like I'm really not interested. I don't have the money or anything." But and then his tone changes completely, and he goes, "Have you been to the restaurant that's right around the corner? I'd say it's like a 30-40 minute walk away from here. The food's really good." And as a foodie, I'm like, "Oh, no, I haven't been there. Like, honestly, I'm very new to the area. I'm just here for today. I haven't been there before. Like, what makes the food so good? And he looks at me and he's like, the food's just very, very yummy, and if you want, I can take you there. My car's parked right around the corner. We can just go there really quick. It's only a 10-minute drive away. And as I hear that, I'm like, huh? Is this one of those stranger danger situations that my mom told me about when I was a kid? Like, what's going on? And why am I experiencing it at the age of 20? Does this man think that he can get me in his car? Me, a 20-year-old, in his car for some food? Food? He's offering to take me to a little cafe, to a restaurant, and he thinks that I'll get in his car for it? Do I look like that type of person? Has this worked before? And I just look at him and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can get there on time, honestly, because, I need to keep working and I won't have a break until, like, a while. And he's like, don't worry about it. I can wait for you. It's only a 10-minute ride from here. It's really quick, honestly. You can just come with me. And I'm really concerned and I'm looking around because did I mention that my boss, my supervisor, was standing a couple feet away, and he could easily hear this conversation and see the fact that I am in distress. And he didn't do anything. He was just standing there and I was just staring at him. And the guy was still pushing. Why don't you come in my car? It's so close by. Why don't you join me? That I just have to, like, point at my boss and be like, oh, like, I really can't go, and I really need to get going now. My boss is standing over there, and if he sees that I'm wasting too much time, he'll yell at me and he'll make my life a living hell. So I start leaving, but as I'm leaving, I can still feel this guy's eyes on me as I'm walking away. And mind you, that's not even the end of it, because I meet another creep a couple hours later. I'm walking around. And it's kind of windy. And at the time I was wearing like this short tennis skirt. If you haven't seen a tennis skirt before, they have like these little shorts underneath to protect you, since you're going to be running around in them. But then on top of it, it's like a traditional looking skirt. And the wind was blowing fairly heavily, and I hear something. I hear a man's voice a couple feet behind me, and it says something about my skirt. And I turn around and I see this old man. He's dragging these grocery bags along the floor, because I'd assume that they're too heavy for him. But he's like leaning down, like in a very strange way. And I look at him and I'm like, oh, like, huh? What did you say? And he looks me dead in the eyes and he says, oh, I was just saying that I wish the wind would blow a little harder so I could take a peek at what's under your skirt. What the f***? I've never experienced that ever in my life. Like, I've had people whistle at me while I'm on the street or go up to me and try to get my number, but I've never have I ever experienced an old man telling me that he is trying to creep on me. And I didn't know what to do, so I just walked away. And I just started dreading the up and coming hours, because I wasn't even halfway done with my work day. Like, I was 3 hours in. So I just continued working and like walking around and trying to talk to people. And then eventually I talked to this one guy. Let's call him Larry, and I had the best conversation ever. I wasn't even trying to sell him anything. He just came up to me and started talking, because I was standing in front of this sign that was advertising a play, and he just started talking about the play, and he was like, oh, I'm like really interested in it, and the conversation was really nice and it was rolling, and the only reason we didn't stand there for hours and hours and hours talking was because he needed to go to his friend's birthday party. So I'm a little sad because I felt like we had created such a nice connection that if I had asked him like, oh, like would you consider donating to charity, he would definitely done it. But whatever, he left. So I continue walking around, and 1 hour before my shift ends, I turn around and guess who I see? I see Larry, my man Larry. And I go up to him and he sees me and he's so happy to see me. Like, his eyes light up, he smiles, he envelops me in a hug, and it's like very nice. And we continue talking about our days, like, oh, how was your friend's birthday party? Like, what's going on? And we're talking, and then my boss comes up behind me, and I just feel like this pressure, and I tell him like, oh, I'm still here, and I'm working, and I was just wondering if you'd be interested in donating to this organization, not just because you'd help these people, but also because you'd help me. You'd be my first ever sale, and I'd be honestly forever grateful for it. And he was like, absolutely, sign me up. And we're going through the process, and as we're going through this process, he tells me like, I don't have a lot of money, so honestly, like, if you're signing me up for something where once I want to sign off, they'll charge me money for it, like, some other companies do. Adobe, I can't do that. And I was like, don't worry about it. It's very easy to sign off, and there's like no, you can sign off whenever you want, and you don't have to pay anything extra. It's fine. And he's like, oh, okay, perfect. And as we're trying to do the sign up process, I quickly realized that this man is not very good with technology. Like, he's 63 years old, and he's struggling a little bit. But at the time, since my boss was there, my boss took over, and he was just doing like everything for him and like asking him a bunch of security questions, and it was very overwhelming for everyone involved except my boss. And once the sale was done, we continued talking, and he told me all about his childhood, like how he's taking care of his 90-year-old mom and how he's the only one doing it, and how he was beat as a child. Like, he's just telling me everything, and I'm trying to communicate with him and tell him like, everything will be fine. It's not your fault. I'm just there listening to this man's sorrows, and eventually I have to go back to working. But as I'm leaving, he tells me like, I feel like we were meant to meet each other. You're definitely like a friend of mine now, and if we see each other in the future, I'm gonna be so happy because I'm seeing a friend. And I felt the same thing. But as he left, and as I had time to think because my workday was basically over, I started quickly realizing that if this man is very bad at using technology, what if he can't sign off and stop doing these monthly payments? What if, since he doesn't have much money, one day he's low on money, and all of a sudden they take out money to pay for this? Like, yes, it's for charity, and he's helping a bunch of people with this money, and yes, it's a very low sum, but I still felt very guilty just through the fact that I felt like I manipulated him into doing something. Like, I used our friendship for my own benefit, and I just started spiraling. So when I was on my way to the train station, I was just crying uncontrollably because I felt like a monster, and honestly, to an extent, I still do. I feel terrible for what I did. And once I get paid, I'm gonna donate that money to charity myself, because I don't want it. I don't want to fill my pocket with this guy's money, because I do get commission for every sale I make, and that's the only sale I made since then. After feeling guilty and disgusted by the things that had happened throughout that day, I decided to take my third day off because I just couldn't, and I needed to breathe because I was arriving at home at like I was getting home at night, and it would just be me showering, brushing my teeth, and going to bed, and I'd barely eaten throughout the day. Like it was a very bad schedule just to wake up at like 6:30 to get to work. My fourth day was completely unsupervised. I was just there with 2 other rookies, and the day was honestly pretty chill. Like, I did meet rude people, and for some reason those rude people all happened to work for the state. Just putting it out there. But my fourth day was very uneventful until it wasn't, because I was standing in a corner. Like, at that point, I'd given up on selling. I didn't want to sell anything to anyone because, like, I'd sobbed just a couple days ago because I actually sold something to someone. So I wasn't really turned on by the fact that I was gonna be trying to convince other people to buy anything. So I'm just standing by a corner, and I'm like looking around, and then this drunk man comes up to me, and he starts talking to me and asking me about, like, oh, the organization that I'm working for, etc., etc., etc. And I realize this man, his nose is bleeding very heavily, and I have like these little wet wipes in my backpack, and I offer him one, and he's like, oh, like, thank you, you're so kind, and he wipes his bleeding nose, and he continues talking to me like he's very drunk, and he also has this very strong accent, so I couldn't understand 100% of the stuff that he was saying. But I was just like nodding and like smiling, because he's drunk, and I don't know if he's gonna get aggressive or like whatever he's gonna do. And then he starts talking about his motorcycle, right? And he's like, oh, I have this very expensive motorcycle. And I was like, oh wow, that's really expensive, that's so super cool. And he's like, yeah, I'm in a biker gang, in this very specific, very well-known racist biker gang, and that's why I won't be donating to this charity, because they help kids in Africa. And I'm a racist, so I can't do that. I'm like, oh, okay. As a very immigrant-looking immigrant, I'm like, oh, okay, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to donate. And he's like, yeah, but like, I'm still a good person. I'm still a good person, even though I'm a part of this gang. I'm a good person, even though I have these tattoos. I'm a good person because I unalived the man that unalived my daughter. What? I unalived the man that unalived my daughter. He got taken by police, and he spent 8 years in jail, and sometimes I'd go and see him, and I told him, once you're out of jail, I'm going to end your life. And that's what I did. I ended his life for justice. I'm just standing there, very scared, because like, I'm talking to this guy who is a violent, racist gang member, and I'm looking around. I'm trying to look for some support from my other rookies. I make eye contact with this one girl, and she can see how close this man is standing to me. Like, he's standing a couple inches away from me. Sometimes I was scared that he was gonna lunge forward a little bit, and he would like try to kiss me or something, because like, drunk people are weird. And he's telling me about his crimes, and I'm just standing there, and I'm like trying to sign help to my friend, my coworker, and she eventually gets the memo, and she eventually starts walking towards us, but this guy is still talking to me, and he's like telling me about like all the crimes he's committed, and he's like, I ended his life. He stabbed my daughters 15 times, and I shot him and I screamed at him. I was yelling, "F you! F you! F you!" I did it for justice. And he looks me in the eyes. He's giving me like the standard Kubrick stare. His eyes are bloodshot. I can smell the alcohol in his breath. And he has these piercing blue eyes that are just looking through me. And he then says, "I took a life for justice. And I can tell you've done the same." What the f***? I know I look dead inside, but I've never ended anyone's life. I've never even killed a fish. What are you talking about? What do you mean you can tell that I've done the same? What is this? And then my coworker finally arrives and she's like, "Oh, hey guys, like how's everything going? Is it going well? What are you talking about?" And the guy literally looks at her and shoos her away. He literally says, "Shoo, shoo." And she eventually leaves, and we continue talking, but like the tense atmosphere had died down significantly just by her arriving and him being aware of like, oh wait, there are other people here. So the tension does die down, right? And and I say like, oh, like I asked him like how many years ago this was, like hoping that, you know, it wasn't yesterday and that he's confessing a crime to me and that I need to call the police. He's like, "Oh, it was like 6 years ago." I don't know how much I believe him, but I did say that I needed to go back to work, and he's like, "Okay, but don't tell anyone." And I'm like, what am I gonna tell? My lips are sealed. I'm scared. I am scared. And then he's like, "Oh, okay, perfect." And then he leaves, and the rest of the day was very uneventful. On my last day of work, I was standing with another rookie. Once again, no supervisor, even though they told me that a supervisor was going to be with us all the time. But no, I'm just being left alone. You know a company is really bad when they have new people teaching even newer people how to do their job. Whatever, that's where I was working. So I'm chilling with him. It's raining cats and dogs. No one wants to talk to us because of the rain and the fact that it came so suddenly. No one was prepared, so they're just trying to scramble home. And he tells me like, "Oh, if you don't sell well, you're gonna get fired." Because I've been there. That's what he said. This guy had sold a bunch in the past couple days, and I was like, what do you mean they're gonna fire you? He said, if you don't reach your budget, they're gonna ask you to resign. I was like, oh, okay, so it's resign or be resigned. So I made up my mind. I was like, you know what, once I walk in Monday, I'm gonna resign, and I'm just gonna be done with it. Monday I walk in, I talk to my co-workers for a little bit, and I told them like, I've been thinking about resigning, and this girl that had worked there for like a month, she's like, "Oh no, don't do it, like there's no reason for you to resign." I was like, I heard that if you don't sell anything and you don't reach your budget, they're gonna tell you to. And she's like, "No, but like it's fine, like you're a newbie, no one's gonna expect you to sell perfectly, especially when you've only worked here for a couple days." And then my boss, like the big boss, comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a sec?" And he takes me into his office and he's like, "Oh, like how are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine." And then he's like, no, but I mean like work-wise. And when he said that, I already knew that he was gonna ask me to resign. So I flipped the script and I was like, "Oh yeah, like I've been thinking about resigning because honestly I don't feel like this job is for me." Which, from what you've heard up until now, I think you understand why. Not just because like I feel bad for selling and because selling for me is hard, but also because the overall security at this job is terrible. And when I told people about the racist gang member, or the guy that was trying to look up my skirt, or the guy that was actively trying to get me into his car, people would kind of like brush it off and just be like, "Oh, it's just like another quirky little interaction with random people." Like, I get that that creepy people come with the job description, right? you're talking to random people on the street. A lot of people that are gonna answer, they're gonna be weird. But the way that no one was like, oh yeah, that's terrible. They just brush it off like, yeah, you got creeped on, okay, the sky's blue, what's new? So it just didn't feel like I was protected in any way. I just had enough. So I told him, like, you know, I just don't feel like it's going well together with my personality. And then he was like, yeah, you know, looking at the numbers, I see that you've made no progress at all, so I think that it would be good, just so that we don't waste your time, and you know, also so that we don't waste our time. And I was like, yeah, it's perfectly fine, you know, you're paying me to stand here and do absolutely nothing, so I understand why you're gonna do it. And he's like, okay, perfect. So he stands up, he gets me my resignation contract, I sign it, I leave everything behind, and then I leave, and I'm free. If I were to reflect on everything that has been said until now, number one, I'd say that salespeople are kind of evil. Like, you can't deny it. The guy I was with on my first day, the one that left me alone, while we were talking and I was asking him for advice and stuff, I asked him, like, oh, how can you deal with so many people either ignoring you? Because at least in the start, it's very hard not to take it personally. During my first day, I thought, like, maybe it's me. Maybe it's the fact that, like, oh, I look a certain way, or I speak a certain way. And now I know that it's not. It's just, like, lucking out on the right person. But I asked him, like, oh, how do you deal with it? Because I felt bad. And he told me, like, oh, I just don't see them as human anymore. And I asked him, like, what do you mean you don't see them as human anymore? And he said, I just don't. And you picked up on it, I think, because you've seen me going up to the same person 3-4 times and them screaming at me that they are not interested. He forgets their faces because he doesn't care. He doesn't see them as humans. He doesn't think about, like, oh, maybe I'm taking time away from them and they're gonna miss a bus or anything. He just sees them as numbers. And that's why he liked the job, because it was just numbers. It wasn't about how you looked or how you acted. It was about numbers. And if you're doing good in numbers, then you stay. And if you're doing bad in numbers, then you leave. So I realized that you definitely need to be a specific type of person and have a specific type of mindset to have this job, and I'm not that. But I also realized just how scary people can be, and it's the people that you expect the least. Like, it's hard to stereotype people, but people that go up to you and start conversations with you, or people that are willing to listen to you when you're going up to them for the randomest reasons, I've noticed that they could be dangerous. You're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation, and you're doing it for not that much money, and it's not worth it. I realized that maybe it's because I'm a girl and I have, like, a very round face and I look young. Like, I've been asked for my ID to buy a coffee. So maybe it's that. But people are scary. And if you're gonna get into a sales job and you're gonna be talking to random people, maybe you should present as a man. Because creepy people did not go up to my male coworkers. I'll say that much. And I honestly don't know what else. I have the experience now, and I feel more comfortable going up to people and saying, like, oh, like, I really like your tattoos. I think they're super cool. Stuff like that. Like, it did help me be more open, and it did give me better social skills, but at the same time, like, I did have to give away a little bit of my sanity. I wasn't expecting that hopping out of my comfort zone was going to put me in these potentially dangerous situations. But they did, and there's not much that I can do about it now, right? What do you think? What should I have done? What would you have done in my situation? Would you have stayed for longer to see if it got better? Or would you just have gone home like I did? Please tell me in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.